Yeah, so you're saying do a Mr. Muscleman challenge to beat Jimmy.
And then it won't be 4-zip. It'll be 4-1.
4-1. I like the sound of that, Lukey. I like the sound of that. Oh, well, can you help me with this? Can you help coach me?
Sure.
Oh, this is gonna be good. Oh, we're gonna beat Jimmy so easily.
What? What's going on here? What is going on here? Nothing?
Nothing.
Nothing's going on?
So,
you
squad,
scored.
we are back.
We're back. We're
Friday
back. It's
night.
Friday night.
I love Friday nights,
I love Friday nights.
They are the best nights, but also we want to hear how you guys find your Friday nights. We love hearing from you guys. Comment down below how your Friday nights are going, how your week has been.
Yes, let us know.
Anything.
We love to hear from you. Love, especially if you're new, if you're tuning in for the first time. We love to hear from you. Let us know that you're kind of watching. And you can also kind of get Gogglebox going. If you've been with us for a few weeks, we're rolling with Gogglebox, which is going to be kind of cool. PACT5 style. So get a camera out, film yourself watching tonight's episode, because then you can kind of get a giveaway. Speak of giveaways.
Giveaways?
You gave away a pair of shoes.
I did give away a pair of shoes. Jimmy's idea, but I did give away a pair of shoes for the Razor Glass for Lukey J thing.
We love that.
It was good. I love seeing all the
good.
photos. So congratulations to Aiden Porter.
Yes.
You got a fresh pair of kicks coming your way and a PACT5 t-shirt.
Yes, and if you have no idea what is going on, or you saw that little montage before, you're like, what's happening? You should definitely check out last week's kind of episode.
It was good.
It was next level. I mean, I still am reeling a little bit from the fact that Luke kind of took my own flesh and blood to kind of be on his team.
Got to do what you got to do, man.
Yeah, well, it took me a few days to kind of, work through that. But I did get a message from a mate of mine just to kind of give me a little bit of a pick-me-up in terms of kind of hearing how down I was and feeling so betrayed. And so a message came through.
Yeah.
Check this out.
Let's go.
Hey Jimmy, I heard that things weren't going too well for you, so here's some tips for fitness in your home. So first tip, do a couple squats, just get down, pause here for a couple hours and just play some Xbox. Try and get about like 2 to 3 reps a day. Now that you're here, do some bicep curls, get some Coke, got some sushi for the left arm. Some lateral raises when you want to turn on the TV. Change the channel. Really helps with arm strength. Once I've had a few cans of Coke, get your cardio up, run to the dummy. Also some shoulder raises. Mom, can you get me the controller? I like to do these like 50 to 100 a day. This is also a Mother's Day present because it gives my mum some fitness. There you go, Jimmy. Hopefully that helps you put the beat down on Lukey J.
My man, Conor. Thank you so much for your encouragement this week, brother. It is good to know that you are on my team. How about that? Hey, in case you're wondering, no, Luke hasn't abandoned his chair because he's feeling let down by Conor, though he probably should because Conor's on my team. So get on that. But Luke has abandoned his chair because we have, and I'm so excited to say, we have our very first guest coming to the PACT5 studio. So ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everyone out there in the YouTube world, give it up for Ming Ting! Ming, brother, welcome to the PACT5 studio. Let me give you some hand sanitizer because, it's health and safety and we like to keep it all above board here, mate. Welcome.
Man, it is a privilege to be in the famous PACT5 studio. And can I say what an honor it is that you ripped off the Lego Masters entrance to welcome me to this place tonight.
Now, Ming, you are the man of mystery, the enigma that lies behind the YouTube channel Tingman. And for those of you out there who haven't seen it, you should definitely go and check out his videos. The link is in our description. Does some incredible stuff. A lot of cubing things. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I've always enjoyed filmmaking from a really young age. So if you look back, and you probably shouldn't, on my YouTube channel you see a lot of weird stuff. But a few years ago I picked up the Rubik's Cube because I'm a nerd. It was about time to just start learning how to do it and how to do it quick. A pretty famous cuber shared one of my videos.
Yeah.
And then the rest was history.
Kind of took off. I have looked all the way back to some of your videos, so we might even chat about some of them later. But also, I got to even be part of this one, or early parts of this one, when we went skydiving together. Tell us about this video.
Yeah, so solving a Rubik's Cube, I mean, anyone can do it. I actually mean that. I actually think anyone can do it. And so it's about looking for extreme ways of doing it and, you know, actually skydiving, like, yeah, but indoor skydiving,
yes.
right? And so, yeah,
yes.
you know, I hit the manager of that indoor skydiving place up, and I was like, hey, what do you think of this? I expected him to say no. He said yes, and we've got a video. You know, I got to sort of tell a story of how that actually happened. It's just such a crazy thing to combine. I think any of my videos where there's sort of just like the storytelling, how the characters involved, and I get to meet new people, and we get to, because, you know, it's about cubing, but it's not just about cubing. You know, it's about people and just making friends and just having good times.
Incredible, incredible. Now, tell us, what are you working on at the moment? Can you hook up PACT5 with like a little exclusive kind of scoop? What's the Tingman on the verge of?
Man, I don't even tell my viewers this stuff. I do have something pretty big that might involve giving things away.
Oh, there you go. Now's the time to get on and subscribe. Now, I said earlier, I did jump on your YouTube channel, scrolled right back 13 years ago. Tell us about Boxman.
Yeah, that's a name I haven't heard in a while.
But you did that video a long time ago.
Yeah, so that was part of, I was part of the University of Queensland's Evangelical Students, which was a Christian group. And that was probably a really big first step in me being bold about my faith. And, you know, like, I've always been a Christian. There were moments that I was like, you know, questioning stuff and had to figure out how to like actually own my faith. But being part of this group at uni really challenged me to be public about it. I guess, like, actually make known to people, yeah, I am a Christian, and, you know, I'm not embarrassed about it. And this was part of a video to try and draw attention to faith and to get people coming along to some talks where we were just like, talking about the gospel and about who Jesus is.
It is quite unique for someone who's kind of, you know, got a bit of a YouTube channel and following kind of going, and also you're a science teacher in the non-YouTube kind of world. It's a bit unusual to be a Christian. So I guess, why Jesus? You know, obviously, you mentioned before, and evangelical students help you live it out, but why Jesus for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I think something that you pointed out is the fact that often people don't think about like science and faith like coming together. You know, it's like you either do one or the other. You can't do both. Or if you did do both, you can't do both very well. And it's like, or even like fun and Jesus. It's like you can follow Jesus or you can have fun. And I think that, you know, part of just growing up and people, you know, like yourself, role models in my life just showed me that actually you can do both. You know, you can follow Jesus and you can have fun, you can have hobbies, and you can love science, you can love learning and discovery. And so I guess, like, if for my channel, it's been a real, it was hard initially thinking about like, oh, I think people are really just subscribing for, you know, cubing content or just like fun stuff like that. I probably shouldn't be talking about my faith. Then I thought, nah, like, that's me.
Yes, yeah, so good. I mean, we literally talked about that last week with declare and display. This sense of Peter saying, hey, be about the business. Your mission, your purpose is to declare and display the goodness of Jesus. So encouraging to hear that that's the channel and the energy that you're kind of putting towards this. And, you know, I think too, as we think about this space, it comes with great hope. Like, no doubt there's people out there, young guys and girls who are trying to create YouTube channels. But the cool thing is that your identity isn't in your subscriber numbers. So if all of your subscribers take off, then use that to declare and display the goodness of Jesus in your life. If all of your subscriber numbers plummet, well, then use that to declare and display the goodness of Jesus for those that are there. It's actually not your identity. It's super encouraging to hear. Now, you've got a bit of a challenge for us. We're here, Lukey J and I, we're in the business of doing challenges, which is exciting. But you got something for us? Tell us a bit about that. What's going to happen?
I do have something for you, but I think we should go somewhere else too.
Okay. Let's go. Let's make that happen. All right, well, here we are. We've got the Tingman with us. We're ready. Lukey J's here. We're ready for a challenge. Tingman, lay it on us. What we got?
Boys, it is a privilege to be giving you this challenge today. But first, I've got to ask for a score update. How many points are you guys on? It's 4. Wait. Sorry, man.
Yeah, what is the score update on this?
What is the score update? The score update is, not withholding any details, 4-0 to Jimmy.
Yeah! Get around it!
It'll change this week, I'm sure. What is our challenge?
What is
Fully
that
changed.
challenge?
Your challenge is, boys, believe it or not, related to Rubik's Cubes.
Haha, boom.
So I'm going to scramble both of these cubes. I'm going to give you the same scramble as well.
Yes.
All right. And your goal is you just have to be the first to solve one side, any of the 6 colors. You can pick any one you want,
Yeah.
but solve the entire thing.
I don't even have to do
Right.
the whole thing.
And in that time, I'm going to solve one of these, like the entire thing, but it's going to be this guy.
Is bigger easier?
You'd think it is, but it's actually a lot harder to turn.
Yeah.
I need to solve this entire cube. You just need to solve one side, and you just need to show me by the end that you've got a cube with one side solved. That's it. Oh, wait, actually, can I up the stakes? If I happen to beat you, we'll keep the race going, and whoever comes first between the two of you, you get to keep the cube.
Whee! All right. Now we're talking.
That's right.
I'm thinking.
All right, now you've got to cover it before you actually start, so you can't actually see it. Oh, actually, I should get one of you guys to mess this one up.
If there's one thing I'm good at, it's messing stuff up.
Hurry up, Luke.
He's not kidding, it is difficult.
This is what you chuck in the SpongeBob like time 2 hours later thing, right?
2 hours later.
Oh, we're back.
All right.
Someone count us in.
3, 2, 1, go!
I got a technique. It's about a formula. It's a formula. Oh, look, I got 4 in a row. Oh, come on, Luke. Did you not even realize? I just said I got 4 in a row.
Can you use tactics of distraction during an assault?
Clearly.
I don't think there's anything in the rules against that, so go for it.
I got 5 in a row. I got 5. Look, I got 5 on one side. Oh, I'm going to win this. Now I've only got 3.
Look, I've got.
Oh, get out of town. I got like 6. Woo!
And this is not going as expected. You're not meant to be good at this.
Oh, no, hang on. I had 6. Now I've only got 5. I don't know what happened to the other one.
No. Oh man, for my cubing, for the cubers out there, I got an N palm.
Yeah, I got one of them too.
Yeah, right.
2 of them, I think.
Oh no, messed it up. Boys, this is not good, I've messed up. Oh, wait, we can recover.
Is there a way to turn the central cube? That looks like it's gonna do.
Alright, I'm feeling this. Wait, what's this one?
I'm not seeing it. Look, it's got a line. It's got like one line in the middle. Look, see that central, that's like 3 lines around the side there.
Oh, I'm so close!
Boys, I'm sorry to do this to you. Ah! It's done. You know what? Let's up the ante a little bit. I'm gonna give you a 20-second countdown. I'm gonna grab your cubes, and whoever's got the most number of, like colors on the same side wins. You ready?
Yeah.
Yep.
20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14,
I just
13,
gotta move this one
12,
here! This one here!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6,
Ah!
4, 2, 1. Time's up. Drop your cubes, please.
What? There is no way you just did that.
How else would I do it?
There's no way. That I don't know, but I'm definitely looking back at that video. I call Boulder Dash.
Look, I would just like to go through the rules again. I'm pretty sure I said you've got that scrambled cube, and at the end you just have to show me a cube with one solved side.
Hey Ming, just want to quickly rehash the rules with you. Can you just tell me what they are?
Yeah, so you just need to have by the end of the solve, you just need to have like a cube with a solved side.
Just a solved side, so just a cube. Does it have to be the same cube?
Technically, no, I guess.
Doesn't technically have. So could I have, let's say, this cube here and have it just show you this one at the end?
Yeah, you could.
Thanks, Ming.
Didn't say it had to be the same cube.
I did not say it had to be the same
Just
cube.
have to have one side solved.
Ladies and gents, we have a winner! Yes!
I was just starting to work out how this works, actually, to be actually honest.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I was.
You got one side, but none of the others are even close.
Yeah, but the thing is...
Yeah, but you work in layers. Like, you're supposed to end up like this.
For everyone who actually is a cube, I'm sorry that the challenge was solve one side, because as we all know, that's not even solving a cube. But I'll let these muggles sort it out.
Well, thank you for coming in, Ming. Thank you for the challenge. Thank you for the cube. Going to be treasuring that. We've also got a PACT5 shirt for you. Just as our first kind of guest we had on, which is awesome. But we're going to throw it back to the boys in the studio. Let's go.
Whew. Here we are. Thanks, Tingman. Love your work. Love being in. Oh,
How good was it? How
Oh,
good is it
so
to
good.
have the Tingman with us in studio, teaching us how to do Rubik's Cube, teaching us
know.
about his own faith, which is awesome. But hey,
Yes.
we are going to be looking at the Bible now, getting back into 1 Peter
Yes.
and seeing what God has to say in there. And we're going from 1 Peter 2, verses 18 to 25.
Yeah. Let's get
18
into
to
it.
25. Let's get into it. We got one of you guys reading the Bible for us now. So thanks, Alice. Take it away.
Hey everyone, hope you're doing okay. My name's Alice and I'm from the Year 10 Girls Squad here at Christ Central Youth. And today we're going to be reading from 1 Peter chapter 2 verses 18 to 25. Slaves, in your reverent fear of God, submit yourselves to your masters, not only to those who are good and considerate, but also to those who are harsh. For it is commendable if someone bears up under the pain of unjust suffering because they are conscious of God. But how is it to your credit if you receive a beating for doing wrong and endure it? But if you suffer for doing good and you endure it, this is commendable before God. To this you were called, because Christ suffered for you, leaving you an example that you should follow in his steps. He committed no sin, and no deceit was found in his mouth. When they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly. He himself bore our sins in his body on the cross so that we might die to sins and live for righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed, for you were like sheep going astray, but now you have returned to the shepherd and overseer of your souls.
Thank you, Alice. Now tonight, one of the kind of key aspects of this passage is unjust suffering.
Yeah.
And I'm super keen for you to get into that, Jimmy.
Yes.
But before we kind of pull that apart, I think I saw in the PACT5 House a bit of unjust suffering just on Sunday night at the dinner table with Sarah. Do you want to kind of explain that story a little bit?
Yes. No, thank you for bringing that up live on YouTube. But you're right. You're absolutely right. It wasn't one of my finest kind of parenting moments by any stretch of the imagination. We were kind of sitting down to get ready to watch Lego Masters, and I told the kids that they couldn't get down from the table until they finished their dinner to watch Lego Masters. So of course they can't see the TV from the dining room table. And so when it comes to starting, Sarah's still sitting at the table because she hasn't finished. And I say, no, you got to stay at the table. You can't watch Lego Masters till you're finished. All the while I go and make food while telling her that, and take my dinner to the couch, and I sit down and watch Lego Masters while eating my dinner on the couch, telling her that she couldn't.
Yeah, it was something, and I will say that the look on her face was priceless. It was, yeah, whew.
Yeah, it was something else.
It was.
As was the tantrum that came afterwards when I said, no, you can't sit next to me and eat your dinner like I'm eating my dinner and watching Lego Masters. But, you know, we've talked that out, Sarah and I, and we've kind of, you know, got on the same page. She's acknowledged that she needs to do what Dad says, even if it's not fair. And I've also acknowledged that there are a lot of lazy aspects going on in terms of my parenting there. So we've kind of straightened that out in lots of ways, you know. But as I kind of said last week, you know, I definitely don't get it right as a parent all the time. Another moment, only 2 days after I said that, proving that I'm definitely a work in progress. God's got his work cut out for him in terms of molding me to be like Jesus.
Yeah, awesome. Speaking of last week, a quick cut
Yes.
to there. What did we kind of get into in this 1 Peter? You want to kind of take us back there, what we've been going through?
Yeah, good. Yeah, so last week we had a look at 1 Peter and how he says one of the ways in which you declare and display the goodness, walk the walk and talk the talk. One of the ways you do that in your life and in the life of those Christians in the Roman Empire was to submit to the authority of the Roman emperor, even if he didn't deserve it, because they knew that God had showed them honor, even though they didn't deserve it. So we had a bit of a look at that last week, and now Peter's going to go even further, even deeper into this idea tonight as he kind of speaks to slaves, and particularly Christian slaves. So we're going to kind of unpack that a bit.
Yeah, I saw as we read through that just before, that one of the big questions that may be asked here is Peter condoning slavery in these verses?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in fact, I think that's quite a common kind of misconception about the Bible, because there are these moments where authors like Peter actually write about slavery. Therefore, the misconception is that the Bible condones slavery. But I think if we look at what the Bible teaches about God and his character and his relationship with people and people that he created, I think we recognize through his love that slavery stands at odds with his intentions and purpose for humanity, for those he's created and loved. And Peter certainly isn't condoning slavery here in this passage, because you've got to remember, who is it and what is it that Peter's seeking to do? When he writes the words here to slaves, his aim here is to write to Christians and to those who are slaves to say, hey, your mission and your goal is to declare the praises and display the praises of the one who brought you out of darkness into his marvelous light. And so we saw last week that included submission and showing honor to Roman emperors and people in authority who might not deserve it. And so he's going to go on now, as we see in verse 18, and say, hey, same deal for slaves. And why don't you have a look with me at verse 18, where Peter says, slaves, in reverent fear of God, submit yourselves to your masters, not only to those who are good and considerate, but also to those who are harsh. See, Peter's saying, if you're a slave in the Roman emperor and you've discovered the goodness of Jesus, then the way you can display and declare that is by submitting to your master. And not just the good, but also to the harsh master.
Yeah, but if I could just jump in there quickly, Jimmy, surely not. Like, surely if your master is harsh and unfair and they're unfairly beating you up, surely you have the human right to be able to stand up for yourself and defend yourself.
Yeah, you certainly do. The truth is slavery is one of the great injustices and showcases some of the most horrific evils of humanity. And as we kind of look back through history and we see moments where slavery has been abolished and where people stood up and sacrificed in order to get rid of slavery in various places, those people should be celebrated. Those moments should be celebrated, because slavery is an incredible evil. And we shouldn't underestimate even the reality that, or downplay the reality that slavery is a very real thing even now. There are parts of the world and there are people who face the reality of slavery, particularly women and children around the world even today. And we should never downplay the reality of how evil slavery is. And we should fight for the rights and the injustices that women and children and those being kind of sold into slavery are experiencing. And there are organizations like Destiny Rescue and the End It movement and many others that we can and should support as we seek to see justice brought about in the world. It's right to feel angry, and you do have a human right for that justice, to defend yourself in the face of justice. But I think what's helpful to remember is the context to which Peter is writing these words here to Peter, and who he's writing to. He's writing to slaves in the Roman Empire, where slavery is probably a bit different to how we perceive slavery. But he's writing to Christian slaves to remind them that their mission and their purpose is not themselves and their own justice. It's to declare and display the goodness of the one who's called them out of darkness into his wonderful light. And if you have a look at verse 20, read it with me. He says, but how is it to your credit if you receive a beating for doing wrong and endure it? But if you suffer for doing good and you endure it, this is commendable before God. Peter's saying you're not really displaying the goodness of God if you do the wrong thing and you get punished for it. But if you're unjustly punished and then you show respect and honor to the one who's unjustly punishing you, well then you are displaying the goodness and the grace of God, because that's exactly what Jesus went through when he suffered for you. And that's what Peter says there in verse 21 when he says, and again, read it with me, he says, to this you were called because Christ suffered for you, leaving you an example that you should follow in his steps. So if you suffer unjustly and you submit to the unjust master or authority, then you're demonstrating the very grace that Jesus showed you when he suffered for your sin.
Yeah, awesome. And I guess that's what Peter is unpacking in those final few verses there, eh?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, Peter is outlining the incredible suffering and unjust suffering that Jesus experienced. I mean, he says there in verse 22 that he did not sin. You read that there in verse 22. Jesus suffered and died, though he didn't commit any sin, though there was no deceit found in his mouth. And then we read in verse 23 that he did not verbally lash out or threaten those who caused his unjust suffering. You know, I think we probably know the temptation when we're faced with an accusation falsely to sort of lash out verbally, to fight fire with fire. Maybe you have that person in your life, maybe in an online space, who knows you're a Christian, is constantly having a go at Christians. And you know that temptation just to lash out, fight fire with fire and attack back. But Peter says here, no, Jesus didn't do that. Even though he would have been faced with the very same temptation, Peter says here, no, Jesus didn't retaliate. He didn't threaten. Instead, we read in verse 23 that he trusted God. See, Jesus cared more about the approval of his heavenly Father than he did about being proved to be right in front of men. That he left the outcome of his justice in the hands of God, and because he trusted in God, then as we read in verses 24 and 25, he dealt with our sin in his suffering. See, Jesus' suffering, it's so much more than just an example for us to follow. Jesus' suffering, the purpose of his suffering was to put an end to sin and to free his people to live in righteousness. Jesus suffered and died for the sins of his people, to offer forgiveness to those who would come and trust in him, like sheep returning to a shepherd, Peter says there in verse 25. What Peter reminds us is that what Jesus endured for our sin is incredible injustice and suffering.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible. Jesus is truly incredible. But on a practical level, I mean, none of us here are going through slavery right now. Like, we're not slaves. So is this passage still important to us today? Like, does it still count?
Yeah, great question. Great question to kind of finish on. We're going to have Q&A in a moment, so definitely hit us up with some more questions that you might have about this. But hey, let me give you two things that I think this passage is really helpful for us. Two things that we can kind of take away from this that's relevant for us. And the first of those is that this passage should helpfully remind us of what it cost Jesus to die for our sin, to pay the penalty for our sin. See, when you read about unjust suffering and harsh masters and slaves, like, it might make your blood boil, might make you get angry, might make you feel a really tense emotion, and it should, because it's unjust and it's not right. But Peter reminds us that that's what Jesus went through to pay the penalty for your sin, that he endured that unjust suffering. Despite the fact that he had the power to end it in a second, he left the judgment in the hands of God. He trusted his Father and he endured unjust suffering so that you and I might have a healed relationship with God, that we might have our sins forgiven. And so I think this passage helpfully reminds us just how incredible Jesus is, that he would endure such incredibly unjust suffering for us. It shows us how deep his love for us is, and it proves that we can trust Jesus because he's demonstrated that he is trustworthy at the cross. But the second thing tonight, is, I think if you've been a follower of Jesus for a period of time, particularly if you've been a follower of Jesus for a particular time, I think maybe it's easy to buy into the idea that if you're a good Christian, if you do the right things, you read the Bible, you go to church or youth group, you pray, you're generous towards others, you're compassionate, then you won't suffer. I think people buy into this idea, but I think we see in this passage that Peter clearly says that's not the case. It reminds us that, in fact, those who seek to follow Jesus and his footsteps will suffer because Jesus suffered. You know, when I was at uni doing my teaching degree, I did a subject on how to teach the environment to primary school kids, and obviously a significant portion of that unit was kind of taught from the perspective of the evolution kind of theory. And whilst I was in the class, I never kind of sought to make debates or create any conflict. But whenever I was asked a question or whenever I was kind of in discussion, it was evident that I didn't hold to that view, that I believe God created the universe. Well, when it got to the end of that subject and that year, my major piece of assessment, I got a fail, which meant I wasn't able to pass that unit, and it was a prerequisite for that subject. And it became really clear in the comments that were made about that subject that the reason why I had failed was really none other than the fact that I was a Christian and I believed that God had created the universe. Now, maybe you've experienced some sort of unjust bullying, maybe online or at school, or maybe because you're a Christian, you've been left out of a sporting team or an event or a friendship circle because people don't want to associate with you. Or maybe you haven't experienced any unjust suffering, but maybe unjust suffering is just around the corner for you. Maybe there's a moment coming where you will experience unjust suffering because you are a follower of Jesus. I think this passage is really helpful because it reminds us that suffering isn't because we've done something wrong. It's unjust suffering isn't because God has lost control or is no longer with us. No, I think it's a reminder that comfort and Christianity often don't go together. That if we follow Jesus' steps, we will suffer. And therefore, we'll need to learn to suffer as Jesus suffered. Not retaliating when we're insulted, not threatening when we're suffering, but instead trusting God to right all wrongs. See, you might not get justice here in this life, but I think what Peter reminds us here, that a day is coming where God will show that justice to you. And it gives you hope that that day is coming. So even in the midst of unjust suffering, as Peter reminds us, you can still continue to display and declare the goodness of Jesus, who called you out of darkness into his wonderful light because he suffered for you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jimmy. And how about I pray and then we'll get into some Q&A?
That'd be awesome.
Awesome. Yeah, dear Lord, I just want to thank you for your son, Jesus. I want to thank you that he was the perfect example of us still are giving glory to you while he went through unjust suffering. And I thank you that because of what he did for us, that we too can show your grace through the unjust suffering that we also face in life. And I thank you for this. In your name, amen.
Amen. Hey everyone, thanks for watching our latest video. It's been great to be with you.
It's been awesome. Please like and subscribe, and maybe check out some of our other content. That'd be awesome.
And we'll see you guys next week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.